Hi folks, it's Danny at Bradley James Classics, and every classic car deserves a good home, especially at Christmas. So here we have a Morris Oxford running on choke. It's an automatic, which makes it even rarer. Now let's get rid of some of the customary closed pegs, and if you know, you know. They're very common in our game, these pegs. There we go. In fact, that's running on no choke at all. Now the car itself has come in as a part exchange. The previous owner has spent oodles of cash on this car. I'm going to run through some of these large invoices, but despite her not being ready to win any beauty contests immediately, she is an absolute good base to turn her into a very viable classic car. I love the idea of these cars being saved and put back on the road. A lot of these cars ended up on racetracks being banger raced and just generally ripped apart and murdered. So if we can try and save some, I would appreciate my customers out there doing me a favour and finding this one a home. Now remarkably, despite this car changing owners, just two former keepers, and it looks like one gentleman had the car from new up to 1986, and then it looks as if it changed hands. I'm looking in the logbook as I'm speaking to you here. I could never quite turn the page, but here we go. And the vehicle was then acquired in 2016. So, long-term owners. Now, it would require a complete paint job to make it look beautiful. However, there are those who could run a classic car with its natural patina. It does have, I'm going to show you the bodywork. I mean, it's a nasty scrape there. But I mean, generally speaking, she's pretty solid underneath as well, I've got to say. I've always been a fan of these cars. So many variants. Posh ones, posher ones, really posh ones. Then you had the MG Magnet, was kind of this shape as well, the Farina type, that classic Farina design. You probably even seen a Peugeot looks a bit like this, again the Farina design. It's got a tow bar on it. A lot of these cars used to get used for towing caravans back in the day. Somebody, I think, may have been slightly colourblind down at the paint shop when they sold them this can of paint, but it's kind of reminiscent of the whole car. It is loosely two-toned here. You can see the two-tone contrast. It'd be interesting to know what this paintwork might look like if it were just totally taken back with cutting compound and polished. I mean, it may be acceptable, but everyone has a different standard, and then there's a different price point for every type of classic. Now, here we are, front end, the engine, which actually is running away quite nicely there. Huge battery, and despite there being a bit of, let's call it, be polite and call it patina, but I can see there's a new dynamo. I can see lots of new gaskets poking out of that engine because it's been rebuilt. The carburetor actually been replaced, and when I look in the inner wings and stuff, it's been pretty solid under there. But anyway, this is the noisy end of the car. I just noticed what looks like a sports coil, so I'm going to assume it's got electronic ignition. Let's have a little look in the car itself. Now, somebody has fashioned a set of what I can only describe as, would that be denim? But there's some rather lovely homemade seat covers here, which are very bright. You could almost do your sunglasses in here. The headlining is surprisingly good, amazing. Door cards are all nice, rear seat belts, and actually the carpet through the back are fairly respectable, and there's these bright red seat belts. So certainly very patriotic colours here. I've got the red and I've got the blue. We're just needing the white. That's a bit better. I'm assuming there's an issue with the heating system because there's an electric heater mounted up here. Now, these are pretty reasonable. I remember having one of these in a Land Rover and it was actually quite effective. So that's that. Looks like it's a period radio. This is the Morris Oxford, and being an automatic, you're not going to see many of those left on the road. And it's all here. You know, I'll be very careful not to over-describe this car. This is definitely what I would describe as a rolling restoration, and there's me revving her up. So Now the bit we really care about, the oil pressure is pretty reasonable, temperature is kind of getting there, and she does actually start on the button. You have to fiddle a little bit around to get the inhibitor switch to recognise when you're in neutral, but that's quite common with these, so I'm sure that needs to be adjusted. But this is very much a sold as is car. This is a rolling restoration. Please don't expect to be running this one down to the Concours Club. Definitely a good base for some work. Now I'm going to keep that logbook out of sight because of people's names and addresses. Now the previous gentleman was very kind and he found a big wodge of receipts that he knew he had somewhere, and after the event you can see that he's posted them on to me. Now this is probably what's going to make this car somewhat more of a viable proposition. So we'll start with the fact that I have an invoice here for rebuilding the engine, and that was done in 2022. Now that work was carried out in Lincolnshire, and we've got skimming the head and regrind the crank and rebore the block, and a new set of piston and rings and bearings and fit valve stem seals, and all the usual associated work there. £500 deposit, leaving a balance, and £1,060 in recent times to rebuild the engine. So you're getting a rebuilt engine. I've got to say there is a little bit of a underlying, I got a feeling it probably needs talking down again, but that's me. And then a whole bunch of additional stuff. Now there's price for bearings and a head gasket and some more work. This looks like various other gaskets, sump gaskets, and oil filter, and that's another £200 there. We have the grand total of £850. This was carried out by a Borg Warner specialist, and that was done in 2023, and there is a reconditioned Model 35 gearbox, £850, and it looks like the torque converter was done as well. So £850, you've got a rebuilt engine and rebuilt gearbox. And then we start getting into the various miscellaneous spends. There's rocker shafts here. This is probably all bits that were bought for the engine rebuild, I'm assuming. That's £300. And then we've got some other gaskets and bits and pieces here, £62, £153 for some a new fuel pump and a cap. So if I were to just, it's probably £2,500–3,000 worth of invoices there, plus the car. And if you work out what we're asking for the car, I think you'll realise that this is actually rather well priced. Now the car itself is of course going to need work. It's not going to be something you're going to be driving home. We deliver these cars anywhere in the UK at a competitive price. Let's just turn this off a minute so I can hear myself think. We will deliver this car anywhere in the UK for a competitive price. We just need to have your postcode. We will also consider a part exchange. I mean, bearing in mind this is a part exchange already, and ideally we'd like to move it on, and especially someone who's going to continue to work on it and keep it on the road. That's what's important to us here. But the car itself, the fact that it's had just these two previous owners, and I'm going to have another little look here. Oh, there's some other paperwork. My word, MOT test carried out in 2017, and oh my word, it didn't have any advisories in 2017, which is pretty good going. Now, the car was produced in May 1971, and the mileage at the moment is 80,000. Now, we've never got a clue how accurate these gauges are, but I'm thinking if it's just had the two owners and it's as solid as it looks, and the headline is in this condition, and generally speaking the car is in, pretty solid order, undoubtedly you're going to find some frilly bits here and there, but for what we're asking for the car, my biggest hope is that someone takes it on and turns this into their affordable classic, because actually even these cars are getting scarce. And I mean, I'll show you, it's kind of solid in all the right areas. I mean, these cars are always known for a bit of corrosion. But actually, just looking around her now, it's nice that all the proper wheel embellishers are there. The chrome looks as if it would definitely clean up and look quite lovely. I mean, in itself there, you're looking at a few bobs worth. I mean, classic car parts are crazy at the moment. So to actually find a complete car to work on, and there isn't any major terrible, I mean, it's a bit grizzly round this wing, but I've got a feeling that's nothing that couldn't be taken care of. The tyres actually look as if they match and would be legal.
And when I get down into the engine bay, I can sort of just, oh, I don't know how well you can see this, but you know, there's certainly evidence of lots of new nuts and bolts and hose and clips and bits and pieces. So clearly, with an engine being out and all this work being done, somebody has cared a lot about this. And I'm going to again show you the evidences. You can usually see where there's gaskets and stuff poking out. Nobody's really attempted to tart this up. It's all just been good mechanical work that's been going on. And you can see someone possibly has given a lick of paint to the fan. It has got a new carb, and I did hear about that new carb, and actually when you turn the key it does run very nicely. It's got a 1, 2, 3 distributor system. There's a few quid's worth, and the new alternator, so lots of new bits. So I'm going to post this video up. I hope this is a good buying aid for somebody who is interested in a bit of a rolling restoration. They're well-loved cars, the old Farinas from this era, and you don't see a huge amount of them on the road anymore. So if this one could go back on the road, it would be delightful. It does drive and move and start and brake. However, it is a part exchange car, and it is sold strictly as a spares or repair restoration recommissioning project, and not one of our usual sort of resale classics. So thank you for watching today's video. If you need any more information, please get in touch with the usual channels. It's Danny at Bradley James Classics, signing out.